welcome to another episode of Live Coding with Matt Groves. So this is my second official episode. I've done a few late night episodes just for fun, but this is part of my new regular schedule. In fact, let's talk about that a little bit here. This is, if you watched the first episode, this is some of the notes that I took about things that I wasn't quite sure how to accomplish or if I needed to accomplish them. And I think in the meantime, through those experimental nighttime episodes, which were a lot of fun, by the way, you should check this out. I did one on some soldering. I'm making a metal detector kit. And I did another episode on editing one of my personal podcast episodes, which was a lot of fun. Stayed up real late, hung out with Calvin and Coder Phoenix, and worked through a whole episode of the podcast. Stayed up way past my bedtime, but got it done. So anyway, these are some of the things that I wanted to work on. So came with a title for this. I don't know if I really need a title, but Live Coding with Matt Groves. It's my name and it's what I do. So I'm going to call that from now on. Doesn't really matter so much for Twitch, but when I save these to YouTube later, probably going to be necessary to have some sort of consistent name. The other thing I was curious about was how a lot of Twitch streamers, not just coders, but Twitch streamers in general, how they got this whole effect that you see right here at the bottom of the screen where the background is cut out. And it turns out I think most of them actually do end up using a green screen, but I found a piece of free software, and you'll see the logo for it come up here every now and again, because I haven't got the paid version yet. Yeah, there it is, ChromaCam. I'm still not sure if I want to end up using this or not. I'm going to have to use it for a while, see how it goes. But it's called ChromaCam, and it's basically like some middleware that sits between my Logitech camera up here and OBS, and it will filter out the background. And it's, not perfect, but it's pretty good. It gives me a little more screen real estate to work with on the stream. All right, so check that. Display chat on the screen. So I also took a recommendation from, I think, Kevin Griffin from episode 1, and I'm using Streamlabs OBS, which seems to be some sort of fork or alternate version of OBS. I'm not really sure. It reminds me a lot of OBS, but I put a chat widget, Twitch chat widget on the screen here. Now it's transparent, so you'll see messages as they come up and they'll disappear. So I'll just type in a test message here. You can see that it shows up on the screen just above me there, and it will disappear after a few seconds. So feel free to enter your chat questions or comments, and they will be saved to the stream for the whole world to see. And I can also monitor the chat from my other computer monitor. You can't see here. I can see your questions come in, so I am absolutely willing to answer any questions that you have in the chat room as we go along here. And if I don't know the answer, I will try to find out, but absolutely willing to interact with you in any way. Yes, so Streamlabs OBS, got that done. Chat widget, yep, that's all done. That was actually, setting everything up in Streamlabs was pretty quick. It was, OBS is a good piece of software, but it takes a little bit of tweaking and working. With Streamlabs, it's just sort of like a wizard setup. You go through and do a few steps, and the more advanced stuff you can figure out how to do it. We'll get to that in a second. All right, so today what we're going to keep doing. First episode, I set up a Kafka connector between Kafka and Couchbase. Got that working. The next part is I want to set up a connector between MySQL and Kafka. And the idea here being that it should go end to end. Data updates in MySQL, connect through Kafka, connect through Couchbase. So it's a way to sort of keep the data in sync for our ultimate goal of a customer 360 sort of thing. So I actually have a short period of time today for the episode. I have about an hour. I've got a meeting scheduled. So I'm going to probably, might not get to finish all of that, but we'll at least get started on it. And as far as scheduling goes, I came up with a schedule, and I think it's good to have a regular schedule so that people will know when you're going to be doing a show, and uh, they can know when to tune in if they're interested. Now, if you go ahead and hit the follow button, you'll get notifications of when I go live. But just for the record here, my schedule is going to be, and this is still a work in progress, so this may change, but Tuesday morning, that's Eastern U.S. time, about 10 o'clock a.m. And I'm also going to do a Thursday, and I think my time for that is at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that's going to be my schedule. I feel like 2 episodes a week is probably good enough, about 2-ish hours each. And having one in the Tuesday, or having one in the morning, afternoon, hits a good selection of time zones. Hey, there's Kerry. How you doing, Kerry? Hello, 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 Mr. Groves. Nice to see you here, Kerry. What else? Okay, entity framework. So I haven't gotten to any of this stuff yet. I definitely plan on covering this in future episodes, some of the work I'm doing to create an entity framework provider for Couchbase, entity framework core 3 provider. That's going to be a very cool project. Screen resolution. Yeah, so there's lots of different opinions on this. I decided to go ahead and set my screen, my monitor resolution is 720p. That's 1280 by 720. And that seems to make the font a little more readable, and it's a little better to stream at that resolution. If you have any other suggestions for that, please let me know how I can make that look better for you. Fritz's write-up, this was brought up in the first episode. I don't have the link for it here, but he made a whole write-up about his 2019 streaming setup. So I went through that, got some tips from that. I still need to go through and just read the whole thing, cover to cover, to make sure I'm not missing anything there. I also figured out the hosting thing. And I think, Kerry, I might be having you at Autohost as well. But the deal with hosting is that if I'm not live streaming, then I can host someone else on my channel. It's kind of like a retweet from the Twitter world, but a little more substantial. So these are a few of the channels that I've added for auto hosting. So Jeff Fritz's channel, Code Bytes, which is from Calvin, Dev Chatter, which is Brendan, I think. Ardalis is Steve Smith. There's a few others I added in there. And I think you, the viewer right now, if you have a Twitch channel and you are doing interesting live coding stuff or technology stuff, I would like to auto host you as well. Not that I have much of an audience right now, but we gotta stick together. We're all in this together, right? So if you're interested, if you're doing that kind of stuff, let me know. Let me know in the chats, or you can send me a tweet or whatever, and I'll check out your channel. And my fallback is I auto host, so you can set priority of your auto hosting. The very last one on the list is RiffTrax, which is not related to coding at all. It is just guys who make fun of movies and old educational shorts, and they stream 24 hours a day. Hilarious. So I figured if nothing else, I'll at least show some good comedy there on my channel. So I got that figured out. Let's see, badges, information, etc. under the Twitch video. Yeah, so I wasn't sure how to actually do this. Where was it here? But it's actually pretty simple. If you go to Twitch here, if you scroll down under the video, it's still showing RiffTrax for some reason. You can switch this edit panels switch, and you can start adding these little sections. So I added a few. I added some rules. Some links to some of the other stuff that I do. I put my schedule on here, and a little plug for Couchbase. This is not an official Couchbase sponsored channel or anything like that, but I work for Couchbase. We're doing a lot of Couchbase stuff, so put a link to it there. I also use Visual Studio a lot, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, so I'll link to that as well. All stuff you can download for free and check it out, and a little bio about me on there. Let me refresh this. I think I should be hosting RiffTrax. Should be, yep, okay. All right, I don't need to show myself, streaming myself. It's a bit much. All right, and one last thing, which is not on my list originally, but with Stream OBS, there's this nifty option to add animations, little sound clips and little animations when people follow you, or if they subscribe or donate or give you Twitch bits, which I don't know, if you want to give me Twitch bits, I appreciate it, but I I don't know if I need any Twitch bits or if they host things like that. So let me see if I can test them here real quick. If you subscribe, you get this little animation right here of a Fran from Black Books typing. That's a lot that's very similar to how I type as well. So hopefully that showed up for the test. But anyway, if you want to see those animations, you can follow or subscribe or donate or give me bits. I'm still not clear on the whole bits thing. Or host the channel, things like that. Okay, so I think that's enough prelude there. What I wanted to do today is, I think I did a little bit of this last episode, was to go through this Tobzm tutorial. And Tobzm is a connector. It's a connector from MySQL to Kafka. I think it might connect to other things besides Kafka, but I'm mainly interested in the Kafka connection here. And so there's a tutorial you can follow. It takes place all in Docker. I think I'd started on this, and I was trying to sort of do it on the fly, make some changes to it. But I think what I'll do is I'll just go through this tutorial verbatim and make sure everything works and everything's working how I expect it to, and then come back and make adjustments to fit in with my overall plan of the whole Customer 360 thing. In fact, why don't I review the Customer 360 thing so you have an idea of what I'm actually trying to do here. If I can find that image somewhere. I'll bring up one of my favorite tools, which is Everything. And oh yeah, it was in this folder here, Customer 360. So Everything is a search tool for Windows. You can find files, folders, directories, things like that. It's a great tool. It's called Everything. Not a very easy to Google name, but it's a great tool. All right, so bring up this diagram here. And this is kind of, well, this is a high-level picture of what's going on with what I'm trying to design. And in this stream, I'm only interested in basically this little part right here. But the idea is you have a large company, a large enterprise, a retailer perhaps, or we're going to focus on retail, but it could be, some sort of service provider, entertainment company, someone that interacts with customers and probably has multiple systems that customers or users or people interact with. And so in our example here, we just have 3 different systems that a customer is interacting with. One is home delivery. So they use a website or some sort of mobile app or software or whatever to schedule home delivery of retail products. The milkman used to deliver milk to your house. That kind of thing, right? Uber Eats or whatever. Somebody to deliver something to your house. Maybe even through the postal service or UPS or whatever. Okay, another system is a loyalty program. So this is like when you go to a grocery store and you swipe your card, or you go to a gas station and you swipe your card to earn points, or you go to an airline and you get airline points. You can track those, and you can track your status, and you can use your points to buy perks and things like that. So another system is for the loyalty program. This might be a website. It might be some other integration, whatever. We're mainly interested in the data that this loyalty program is storing, which is a separate database than our home delivery database. But each of these has a piece of our customer's information in it. And there's a piece of it for loyalty and a piece of it for home delivery. And then down here, maybe there's an online store, a .com website or whatever. And that's storing information about our users, their purchase history or preferences or whatever. And the only way we can access that data is through a REST API. So there's a database somewhere, but all we have is a REST API to get it. We don't have direct access to the database. For this one up here, loyalty, again, we don't have direct access, but we do have access to like a nightly CSV export, which is not uncommon. And then what I'm mainly working on is this home, right now anyway, the piece of it I'm working on is we have a home delivery database. It's a MySQL database somewhere. And the only thing we have access to get that data is through Kafka Stream. So a user makes a change to their profile or their home delivery information. It gets updated in MySQL, and we want to automatically let Kafka know that some piece of data changed, and we'll put that in the Kafka stream. And the idea here is that in our integration platform here, this is our Customer 360 system. We want to be able to get a complete picture of our customer from all the systems in our enterprise. And 3 systems is actually a pretty modest number compared to some Couchbase customers who may have a dozen or more systems, all containing some portion of the user, a piece of the puzzle. And we want to get them all together in one system, Customer 360 system. We just want to sort of copy the data to start with. We're not trying to replace these databases, at least not yet. We want to get a copy to start from. And then we can integrate them all together into one complete, as possible, picture of the customer. So when they want to call in to ask for help, or we want to run some reports to get some insights about users, do some AI, machine learning, and all kinds of interesting things, we have the entire picture of the customer together in one system. And so the first part of that is we're going to subscribe to this Kafka stream and bring in data about the users from that system. So that's kind of where we're going from here. And I'm sort of focused right now on this part, which is, for me, probably the most difficult part, because I've not used Kafka much before. I've used MySQL in the past, but I've not used much Kafka before. These other things, CSV and REST API, that's just going to be some pretty, at least for me anyway, some pretty straightforward code to write that. But getting the Kafka stuff up and running, that's going to be the toughest part. And my ultimate goal is to write a tutorial that will help people who are building systems like this to understand the different ways of integrating between data sources. My goal is not to be a MySQL expert or a Kafka expert, but to get people started to say, yes, you want to integrate from these different sources. Here's how you can get started doing that. Okay. So with that in mind, I found this tool called Tobzm, which is one option. There's several options, but one option for streaming changes into a MySQL database into Kafka. Okay. And just as a reminder, since I see there are some viewers here, if you have questions along the way, if something's confusing, if you have any insights or experience of your own to share, please feel free to drop that in the chat room. Because the last thing the world needs is more of me just filibustering and talking nonstop. I'd love to hear from you. That's one of the main reasons we're in a Twitch room, a Twitch stream, is because Twitch is so interactive. It's a great platform for that kind of stuff. Okay, but I understand if you just want to put something on in the background while you're working, totally fine too. No pressure here. Just whatever. Like I said, we're all in this together. So whatever you want to do, that's cool. All right, so I'm going to go through this Tobzm tutorial as best I can. Kerry asked, "What is on the T-shirt this morning?" Good question. I was hoping someone would ask. This is one of my favorites. It says, "I code, therefore I am." And hey, look at that! The animation's working. C# Fritz, thank you very much for the follow. C# Fritz, Jeffrey Fritz, he has a great channel on Twitch. He's sort of one of the reasons I decided to get back into Twitch streaming, because he's doing some great work there. So thank you very much for the follow, Fritz. I appreciate that. Anyway, Kerry, the shirt is from a company called Fast Reports, I think, or Fast, yeah. Fast-report.com, and they do a lot of conferences, and I see them a lot because I do a lot of conferences, and they had this shirt, and I really liked it because it's got like C# on it inside the code, and I'm a C# guy, so I like this shirt a lot. It's a comfortable shirt too, and it's a nice red color. I'm a Reds fan, so this is a no-brainer for me. The Michael Jolly says, "Now you're legit with a C# Fritz follow." Yes, finally, the validation I crave. Kerry says, "Matt is totes legit." I don't know if saying that I'm totes legit is itself legit. I feel like to be legit, you have to say the entire word. I don't know, but thanks, Kerry. I appreciate that. Geez, Kerry and I, where did we first meet, Kerry? Well, I know it's been a lot of community events and stuff. Did we work together at some point at a consulting company here in Columbus? I can't remember. Kerry and I go back quite a ways. And she does some cool stuff on streaming as well. You should definitely check out her Twitch channel. Michael Jolly, we're too old to say totes. I think it's okay to say it ironically. You know, my generation invented irony, right? So it's okay to say it ironically. Especially if you say totes my goats. Gotta say totes my goats. All right, a little quick Twitter distraction here. Okay. I think dinosaurs roamed when we met, Matt. Oh, geez, Kerry, don't say that. Although there's some truth to that. Toes my goats is kosher. Totes my goats is kosher. Okay. Jinx. All right, so let's see if we can get some work done here. Let's move this over here. That's going to be tough because there's going to be some long Docker commands. So why don't we sort of stretch this out here. Move this down here at the bottom. Okay. All right. So we're going to walk through this Tobzm tutorial. Tobzm is built on top of Kafka. It provides Kafka Connect. Okay. So hopefully it's compatible. I'm trying not to go off too far off the path here, but hopefully everything's compatible and stuff. But we'll go through this tutorial, see how this works. So I'll be using Docker. Michael Jolie, work. This is Twitch. We don't work. We all build bots over and over again. Bots, bots, bots. I have noticed that building bots, Twitch bots seems to be a theme, a lot of these channels. And so maybe I'll have to build some sort of Twitch bot eventually that uses C# and I don't know, can you work a database into there? I think possibly. There's some really cool eventing stuff that Couchbase can do. But that's getting a little bit distracted there. So I want to stick with kind of my goal here at work is to get this customer 360 thing off the ground. Maybe we can do a Twitch bot later. Twitch streamers building their own bots is like a Jedi building their own lightsaber. It's a rite of passage. All right. So maybe I do need to build a bot at some point as well. And C# Fritz, I'm trying to stop building a bot, but I've got a number of requests for features I need to complete. Yeah, so maybe I'll just borrow. I think C# Fritz's bot is completely open source on GitHub, so maybe I'll just go check out what he's doing and maybe do like a fork or just run his bot instead. You know, it's always that buy versus build decision. Right? But I'm sure it is fun to build a Twitch bot. That's probably why I do it. Visual Studio is now hosting my stream. Wow, that's pretty cool. Thanks, Visual Studio. I appreciate that. And you can see another one of my silly animations on there. I just sort of picked random GIFs I have around my hard drive and threw them in there. Yeah. It's like an artist with their painting. How do you know when they're finished? Yeah, so the Twitch bot is something that's never truly finished. Okay, so Docker. I've already got Docker up and running. So I'll just show you a list of things. I've got mostly Couchbase images here, but these are all stopped right now. Not doing anything because I'm running a Couchbase right against Windows locally. But we're not going to even get into Couchbase today. We're going to look at MySQL and Kafka. All right, Zookeeper. So again, I don't know much about Kafka, but Kafka does depend on Zookeeper to keep the because Kafka is a distributed system, so there's multiple machines that are clustered together. And I believe Zookeeper is a tool that kind of manages all the different nodes of a Kafka cluster. So you need Zookeeper to do that. Now, I'm not going to do any sort of significant Kafka cluster here. It's probably just going to be a single node type of situation, but you still need Zookeeper. Visual Studio hosting you, in Kerry Payette's words, you are now totes legit. Yeah, I'm double totes legit. Kerry says, I still don't know where to start to build a Twitch bot, but I keep finding streams with already established projects. Matt is totes legit to quit. I'm just going to let that one simmer out there. Let that one stew. I'm not going to admit that I understand the reference, because then I'll have to admit that I come from dinosaur times, like Kerry said earlier. Okay, so we're running this on Docker. So IT runs it in an interactive part of the shell here. So when I run this PowerShell will basically be locked to user input. Well, that's not quite correct, but it's not going to exit. It's not going to run as a background process. It's going to keep running in this window here. RM means when the Docker process stops, that Docker will just erase it. So this is kind of a good sort of dry run approach to using Docker. C# Fritz, I need to add multi-tenancy and multi-threading to the bot. Michael Jolie says MC Hammer reference. Yeah, Michael Jolie, you said it, not me. Bots start with IRC, TCP client connections. That's interesting. IRC. I mean, I used to be an IRC user, heavy IRC user back in the day, and I wrote some scripts and stuff for MIRC, if anyone remembers MIRC, or Merc as we called it, I think. I don't see if that's quite related to Twitch or not. Let's use the same protocol, which would be pretty awesome. Okay. So then when you install Docker, on Windows anyway, how it works is that it installs an image inside of a Docker host. And so everything is sort of internal to that Docker host. And so if you want to expose some ports outside that, that host, you need to specify them here. So we're specifying 2 ports here. We're just going to expose them to. C# Fits Twitch chat is an IRC server. Oh, very cool. Oh, that's very interesting. I did not know that. So Twitch is kind of a spiritual successor, I guess, to IRC, which is very cool. Because just the other night, I was talking to Coder Phoenix was on the channel when I was doing the podcast editing, and he's a guy that I met a long time ago, long time ago, on IRC, and we still keep in touch. And he's been a guest on the podcast, things like that. So, geez, it's just like old times. All right, so port 3888, and we're using this Tobzm image here of not Zookeeper, Zookeeper 0.9. So this is like Tobzm's version of Zookeeper. So they may have made some other changes or configuration stuff to it in the process, but it's okay. We can use theirs for this tutorial. I would expect you don't necessarily have to use Tobzm's Zookeeper or Tobzm's Kafka in order to use their connector, but we'll follow the tutorial. Okay, and so we also named it Zookeeper. You can name your Docker images, which is very helpful. Otherwise, it gives it an automatic name, which is not necessary, but a little bit confusing sometimes. Michael Joel, I just learned the -rm command in Docker run. Gracias, Matthew D. Groves. I always have to come in to work on Monday and delete all the containers that were left over in my machine from last week. Yeah, and so especially if you're doing a tutorial like this, you don't necessarily want all these Docker images just sort of hanging around. So it is nice that they built that in the tutorial, this sort of automatic cleanup after you're done going through the tutorial. Okay, and so just to show that that's running, we'll do a docker ps-a, and you can see that Zookeeper is running here, and it's named Zookeeper, and its status is up. So all these other ones are exited. These are Couchbase images that I used during the normal week, but this is up for about a minute, so we're in good shape. Michael Jolie, I wish Visual Studio would do that when debugging. When you're debugging, like you're deploying a .NET project to a Docker container, it spins up a container, and you wish it would clean it up when debugging. Very interesting. I wonder if there's a setting for that, because honestly, I don't do much building my own Docker images right now. But I have tried that. I have tried the debugging thing, and I think you're right. The last time I tried it, it creates a Docker image. I don't think it keeps creating a new image each time you debug. It reuses the image, but it doesn't clean it up or anything after you close Visual Studio or something like that. So that might be an interesting feature. Anybody from Visual Studio or C# Fritz listening? It might already be possible. Who knows? It might just be an obscure setting. Okay, so the next step, if we've got Zookeeper running, we need to, Michael Jolie, it does create new images sometimes. I don't know what causes it to. Oh, okay. Interesting. All right, so we need to run Kafka next. So we'll do a Docker run. This will be very similar to what we just did with Zookeeper. We're going to call it Kafka instead. The port number will be different. Now, I should note that generally speaking in Docker, you can only expose, you can have a lot of different containers within the Docker host. But if you expose one of them to a specific port, you can expose a different one to the same port, which is fine because I don't think we have any port conflicts in this example. And we'll do Zookeeper. Wait, oh yeah, and we're going to link these containers inside of Docker, just going on these names. So we came with a nice convenient Zookeeper name before, and Tobzm Kafka 0.9. All right, what else we got? So C# for it does contain new images with a dev tag. Michael Jolie, I'll find multiple dev images. All right. Robert Tables. So I know Robert Tables from the C# Fritz channel. Thanks for dropping by, Robert Tables. He was probably called Little Bobby Tables when he was a kid. I heard Docker and magically I am here with a little Docker emoji. Okay. So Robert, if I'm doing anything crazy or wrong, please let me know. I'm not much of a Docker expert. I use it all the time, but very shallow sort of Docker user. And I'm following this Tobzm tutorial. It's Robert Tables. It's Robert Tables. The channel's going to pot already. Don't say that. That's not nice. Remember the rules, everybody. I showed them earlier. Be nice to Robert Tables. I think I'll add that as a rule number 4. All right, so let's get the Kafka container going. Okay, so far so good. Kafka is started. Now, notice it's not downloading those Docker images because I tried this last week already. So it cached those images already locally. We don't have to wait for them to download. Let's see, Michael Jolie, I meant that in love. If you took it any other way than loving, then that's on you. Another follower. Thank you. Kind of hard for me to read in the preview here. Soviex555, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate that. All right, so we've got Kafka running. We're always connecting to Kafka from within a Kafka or from a Docker container. Okay. All right, and we linked it to Zookeeper. Yep. Okay, and this is the typical output, and that looks right. Kafka server started. Okay, we're in good shape here. Now we're into MySQL. So we've got the Kafka part up and running. We'll just sort of shrink these down, let them sort of hover around up here. Make a little room for more PowerShell windows. All right, we don't have a database yet, right? So we need to create another Docker image. Okay, and we'll do this to start MySQL. So this will be very similar. IT RM, and we're going to name this one MySQL. Very creative names here. And the default MySQL port, we're going to expose that. This way we can also connect to MySQL with whatever client we want to. Another follow from Robert Tables. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, you guys. Really putting my Stream OBS configuration to the test. So thank you for that. Password is not a very good password, but this is all local, so that's fine. And then a MySQL user, also not a great name, but again, it's local, so it's fine. MySQL password. So this is different than MySQL root password because this corresponds to the user. There's always a root user in MySQL, I believe. At least there was. It's been a while. I did MySQL stuff. I did my tour in MySQL years ago. I know there's been changes to it since, but I think there's always a root user, so you have to specify a root password, and then you can create other users as well. So this one's creating a MySQL user with a password of MySQL password, PW. Okay, and this -E just passes these settings over. Another follow from Michael Jolly. Thank you very much. Is it Jolly or Jolly? I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. Appreciate that. I'll do the Burger King eye thing. So this -E passes in these settings to Docker. They're environmental settings, I believe. The Docker image will look for these settings when it starts up the image, and we can actually pass them in using this -e flag. So think of them kind of like arguments to a function. Okay, and we're going to use Tobzm has their own version of MySQL. Now in this case, I think the reason they did this is because this image comes with some sample data, some sample tables, stuff already created in it. So that's why we're using Tobzm's MySQL image. See, Kerry, my stream elements don't work at all at the moment. Going to start it over when I dig out some time. Yours is working great. So those are called stream elements, those little animated GIFs and things. It's fun. Michael Jolly. Jolly like the rancher. Ah, yes. Called Jolly Rancher. Okay, and Robert Tables. Environment variables are certainly the correct way to go, especially with sensitive values like passwords. Yes, I think I have seen this before, not just in tutorials, but you definitely configure them that way, and you also get some automation out of it with if you're going Docker Compose or Kubernetes even, you can configure them more easily that way. Okay, so we'll fire up MySQL. Okay, so it's doing all kinds of stuff here. Time zone. So I think in the tutorial here it says that actually starts up and shuts down MySQL a couple of times. And I think it explains why it does that. So 3306, we're going to have that exposed. Yeah, so configuration is modified in MySQL. So there are some things that you need to modify in MySQL for the Tobzm connector to work. It's some sort of, I think, bin logging setting, something like that. Tobzm actually subscribes to one of the MySQL logs, and by default that's not enabled, so you have to enable that. That's what it's doing there. Okay, so we've got the MySQL database connected. This isn't part of the tutorial, but I'm going to actually connect to it using a tool called HeidiSQL. This is a Windows tool, H-E-I-D-I. We'll just write it in the chat here. HeidiSQL. It's a tool that can connect to Maria, or MySQL, or Postgres, or even MySQL or Microsoft SQL Server. But this kind of reminds me of SQL Server Management Studio. You can connect to a database, view the tables, run queries, things like that. So let's just do a new one here, and we'll call this one Tobzm Docker MySQL, and it'll be localhost. Now, if you remember, we have to specify the credentials here. So I could log in as the root maybe and say Tobzm. Or no, the user is root. The password is Tobzm and port 3306. So let's save that and see if that connects. It does. Okay. So now we've got these different databases here. Some of these are system databases. We don't want to mess with them too much, but inventory, I believe, is the one that has some sample data in it. So there's addresses, customers, which we'll be definitely interested in for our customer 360, orders, products, and products on hand. So lots of interesting data in here, and you can see that's actually got some records in it already. So our customer has first name, last name, email, and some ID. Probably if we look at the table structure, it's auto-incremented ID field set as the primary key. And it looks like email is actually some sort of constraint or foreign key on it. I'm not really sure what that icon means. But anyway, so we got a database up and running. We're connected. We're doing good here so far. Okay. All right. So now, so this is the next part of the tutorial is actually to run another Docker container. You can access MySQL through a command line interface as well. So I think I'm probably going to skip this part unless there's anything we need to change with the command line. I think this is just to verify that there's data in there. So this is the MySQL command line. We can check the inventory database, show the tables, which we saw that already. Customers, orders, products on hand. Select from customers. Okay, so we did all those things already. We used a UI, though. I'm more of a UI-oriented developer. I don't think the mouse is forbidden, so I'm a little more clicky and visual. A lot of developers are very like command line or die, and that's cool. I'm impressed by that, but that's not really my deal. Okay, so we've got MySQL up and running, and so now it's time to get Kafka Connect. So we've got Kafka running, we've got MySQL running. Now we want to connect MySQL and Kafka, and that's what Kafka Connect is.
A little nonsense now.
Another follow from Gareth Hubble.
Wisest.
If I can make this preview window any bigger. There we go. Gareth Hubble. Hope I'm saying that right. I like clicky and visual on stream, but more of a keyboard warrior off stream. That's fair enough. I am not myself also following. This is just a follow marathon today. I really appreciate it, everybody. Thanks very much for stopping by the channel. Gareth, I always tend to use GUI database tools, though. Yeah. I'm not, I'm using command line here for Docker, so I'm not completely opposed to command line. I pronounced it perfectly. Oh, thank you very much. It's just, if I have a choice, typically I'll favor the UI versus the typing in the command line. All right, so let's open up one more PowerShell window here. Okay, this is a very long command, so I probably should copy and paste it, but let's just go ahead and type it here just to walk through these flags. So this is a similar stuff we've done so far. We're going to name this one Connect. We're going to expose port 8083. And so this is a group ID. So what is the group ID? Let's see. Group ID, they're all required by the Tobzm image. You can use different values as desired. So this is something to do with the Tobzm connector, the group ID. I'm not myself. Whatever allows you to work effectively. I like using the command line because it helps me learn commands needed for writing scripts easier. A very good point. So that's probably a big difference between like what I do and what you do. I'm not much of a ops kind of guy, so I don't end up writing a lot of scripts. I imagine if I was, I would probably, makes a lot of sense. I learned those scripts, the CLI, all those things. So yeah, absolutely. I'm not opposed to the command line in any way. I think it is obviously a very powerful tool. And I grew up using DOS. My first OS was DOS, so it was all command line back then. So, but yeah, I do like the mouse and the UI tools when I can. Config storage topic equals my connect config. Okay, so I ran into this last time I tried this. So in Kafka, when you put messages, put data into Kafka, you put them in these organizational things called topics. And again, I'm not a Kafka expert, so forgive me if I'm saying any of this stuff wrong. But in this case, there's 3 different topics: config, offset, and status storage topics. So I'm assuming that some of these are those infrastructure topics that this Tobzm connector needs to do the kind of stuff that it does. So I may not be taking full advantage of all these Tobzm features as we go forward. My goal is to just stream data from one place to the other. I don't need to worry about transforming it or things like that just yet. So that may be what's going on here. But let's just keep going on here. So config storage topic equals my connect config. And another one, offset storage topic equals my connect offsets. And then status storage topic equals my connect statuses. See, this is why I should copy and paste it. So I probably should go back and do that just to make sure I wasn't mess something up. Let's see. Oh, we got like a reunion here. Michael Jolly and I Am Not Myself in the chat. I'm Not Myself has been slammed with work this month. 2 more trips coming up and a big project onto my lap. Yeah, been there. Gary Payette, happy to see you. I'm Not Myself. So, hey, thanks for hanging out. I'm Not Myself. Appreciate it. You're a fan favorite. Doing some Auth0 work yesterday, and of course, you came to mind. Oh, I'm Not Myself. You wouldn't happen to be an Auth0 employee that maybe I already know who you are. I'm actually doing a meetup, a Nomad.js meetup here, just next week, I believe. Or maybe it's this week. It might be in a few days, actually. I better check on that. One of the Auth0 guys, I think, runs that meetup. Joel Lord, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. I know a few Auth0 guys. You're an evangelist at Auth0. Yeah, I think we've probably met before. I'm just not sure who you are based on your Twitch name. All right, so anyway, where were we? Config storage topic. Yep, Joel's on my team. Okay, so you're not Joel, but you know Joel. Cool. Topic connect statuses. Which one was this? This was status storage. We're going to link this one to Zookeeper. And we're also going to link it to Kafka. I don't quite understand the Zookeeper link. Maybe Zookeeper also manages the connect. Because connectors can be clustered and scaled as well. And we're also going to link this to MySQL. So it makes sense to me to link it to Kafka and MySQL. The Zookeeper link, I'm not quite sure what that's for. And then we're going to use this Tobzm connect 0.9. Okay, so that's Zookeeper is a service discovery tool, I think. Makes sense. It was my understanding that Zookeeper sort of with Kafka anyway, sort of keeps the cluster like healthy and keeps it up. Like if a Kafka node goes down, Zookeeper will observe that and then, bring up, restart it or something. I don't know. So I'm worried that I made a typo there, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this and run it. Rob tables. Oh, gotcha. Okay, I could absolutely be wrong about Zookeeper. It could be both those things. Again, this is new, very new territory for me. Okay, it looks like it started working. You should see in your terminal the typical output of Kafka, ending with finish starting connectors and tasks. Finish starting connectors and tasks. Okay. So far, this tutorial is on point. All right, using the Kafka Connect REST API. The Kafka Connect service exposes the RESTful API to manage the connectors. Yes, yes. And we're going to use the API using the curl tool. So, again, two things here. The curl tool on PowerShell is slightly different than the curl tool on like Bash or macOS Terminal. So I'm always wary about using curl on Windows. Also, back to our point earlier, curl is command line. It's a ubiquitous tool. It's a popular tool. Everyone knows curl to make HTTP requests. But if you remember, I generally try to prefer the UI over the command line. So for stuff like this, I prefer a tool like Postman, which is a visual way of basically making curl requests, making HTTP requests. So I'm going to bring in Postman here. I'm running out of room on my screen to show Postman and show this tutorial. Do my best here. Oh, okay. And I've got about 10 minutes left. I got to run earlier today. Normally, I plan to leave like a 2-hour block here for Tuesday, but I got to run early for a meeting today. So I just lost my place in this tutorial. Here we go. Okay, so curl, and this is going to be a header, JSON header, and this is the URL. So over here in curl, we're just going to, I'm going to copy and paste this into the get. So by default, I think curl uses gets, so I don't have to specify. I could specify that if I wanted to in the command line, but it's get by default. Put the HTTP in there, and in the header, it's going to be application JSON. So I believe I thought there's a Postman like setting for this preset. Maybe there is, but I'll just go ahead and put accept in here, and then application/JSON for that value. Okay, and if I send that request off, what I should get back. So what I should get back, according to the tutorial, is this version and commit information, and that's what I've got here. But I've also got this Kafka cluster ID, so that's something that is not in the tutorial. Slightly different. It's the first time this tutorial has diverged from my own experience, so hopefully that's not a major problem. Okay, we're running Kafka Connect version 2.1.1. Next, we can check the list of connectors. So this is also a GET request. So I'll just change this to /connectors, which I did this, I think, last week as well. And that returns an empty array. So that means that the service is running, but there's no connectors. So we're going to start a connector that will capture changes from a MySQL database. All right. So we want to, okay, yeah. We're going to use curl. Okay, and this is where it gets a little more complicated. So this would be something I could just copy and paste into the command line, no problem. For the UI, though, I got to do a little bit more work. So for one, this is a post. That changes to a post. We'll start a new tab here. And it's going to be connectors URL. And I don't know what -i and -x mean in curl because I'm not familiar enough with them. So that's a failing on my part. The header, so we did that before. Content type, we're doing headers this time. Content type, application JSON. So that's probably something that's I could pre-select in Postman, maybe. It doesn't matter. What else? That's the only header. Okay, so -d, I believe this is just the body of the post. So I can just go over here and, oh yeah, so this is where I put in, yeah. So here is where you can select what kind of body it is. I'm going to beautify that. Which I just discovered just now in Postman. I've been using JSON lint all this time, but you can actually beautify the content with one click of a button. Yay, Postman. Okay, so back to the headers, body. Okay, cool. I wonder what the -i and -x mean. Anybody know what the curl -i means? You can look it up here. Just want to make sure my Postman request is comparable to what actually the tutorial is doing. Everything curl, cool, curl tool. Here we go. Okay, I'm not myself. -i include protocol headers in the output. Okay. Okay, I don't think that's super vital. And -x is the other one. Man page, I think is what I want. Yeah. -x. Oh, I just missed it. -x uses specified proxy. Oh, that's lowercase x. -x is custom request method. Okay. Which I think that's the post. Okay, that's the post part of it. So I'm doing that already with the drop down. All right, we're in good shape. I think that'll be fine. I'm not myself from Auth0. He would know all the curl stuff because Auth0 has a REST API available, I think. I believe I've used that before. Okay, and so there's our request. It came back. It says Windows users may do escape double quotes. Oh, so they actually are considering Windows users. See, this is a beautiful but rare thing, is for a tutorial that's mainly geared towards people who are on Linux or Mac to actually take the time and consider Windows users. So I definitely appreciate that, Tobzm. Thank you for that. Rubber tables. I generally do a lot of CLI stuff, but I still really, really love Postman, especially when you're passing all kinds of headers and query parameters around. The CLI gets clunk real quick. It gets clunk. That's the opposite of crunk, I assume. Okay. All right, post request. Here's the submit post request, more readable format. I tend to use this a lot instead of curl. So it's a Visual Studio extension, I guess. REST client for Visual Studio Code. Oh, interesting. I'll have to check that out at some point because I also use Visual Studio Code a lot. So I will check that out. Thank you for that. I'm not myself. Kerry Payette. Postman is one of my faves as well. Yeah, Postman. You really can't go wrong with Postman. I used to use a Fiddler for a lot of this stuff as well. And Fiddler's still a great tool. But I think in terms of interacting with REST APIs, I like Postman a little better. Fiddler is great if you're sort of monitoring HTTP traffic, which I don't think Postman does at all. And Fiddler can create HTTP requests, but it's a little, a little different interface for that. So they're both great tools to have. I have them both installed. Fiddler, I don't know if my Fiddler is up to date. I haven't opened it in a while. Okay, not signed by Telerik. I'm going to assume that's okay. But yeah, we're installing Fiddler Update right now. But yeah, I like Fiddler a lot too, but for different reasons. Anyway, I got a little sidetracked there. Back to the tutorial. All right. Okay, here's the same, just on, okay. So the message we're posting, I guess is what it's talking about, is we're saying,
A little
oh,
nonsense
thank you for
now
the
and
follow,
then,
Anto
harassed by
Subash.
the
Hopefully I'm saying
wife
that right.
of the man.
Each task should operate only one any one time. So tasks.max, that's what that means. One. So that's has to do with MySQL. Database host is MySQL. Yep. So we specified that when we created the Docker image. Etc. Hosts, is that specified in here? No, it's not. Okay. MySQL server port is specified. Yep, there's a port number. Tobzm user, we did set that up. Tobzm. And DBZ password. That's not the password, I don't think. Was it? DBZ? Maybe it was. Unique server ID and name are given. So that's going to be used as a prefix for Kafka topics. So this is going to, I don't know, did I pass? I guess I passed in this number. I'm not sure where that number comes from. Let's see. And then DB server 1 is just like a server name, just arbitrary name, I think. We only want to detect changes in the inventory database. So we're whitelisting that. Whitelist is, this is the things we want to track, as opposed to a blacklist is the things we don't want to track. So whitelist there. Connectors should store the history using the named broker. Upon restart, so the command should produce a response similar to the following, perhaps a bit more compact. So here's the response that we got, and this is the response that it expects. So we can kind of put these side by side. See that they match up for the most part. Looks like they do. Yes, exactly match up. So that's good. All right. So far, so good. Now, the next thing I wanted to check is that data is actually getting into Kafka, but I'm out of time right now, unfortunately. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and following the channel and testing out some of this cool Stream OBS stuff with me. The next time I'll be on for sure is Thursday afternoon, around 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And between now and then, I may do some other, get on Twitch for some other fun stuff in the evenings, that sort of thing. But thanks again, everybody. I hope to see you again soon. Have a good day.